We do anything from, I always say bars, chapels. We do a chapel. We put a chapel. If they on an acquisition, we'll put a chapel in there. We'll put a bar in there. We'll put a movie theater. We'll put, the amenities that everyone wants and expects moving forward. Because as most of the properties that are across the country, are older properties. I mean, if you look at the whole, as a whole, and when I get to that age to decide that I'm not going to stay in an older property, I'm just not, or not so much that it's older, does it have the amenities?
Thanks for listening to Bridge the Gap, a podcast dedicated to informing, educating, and influencing the future of housing and services for seniors. This show is powered by our sponsors: Align, NICMAP, ProCare HR, Sage, Gibson Insurance, Hamilton Captel, Paragon Senior Living, ServiceMaster, The Bridge Group Construction, Salinity, and produced by Grit and Gravel Marketing. Connect with the BTG Network team and use your voice to influence the industry at btgvoice.com.
Bridge the Gap, 3, 2. Welcome to Bridge the Gap podcast, the senior living podcast with Josh and Lucas. It's a beautiful day. We got a great friend and a guest. I want to welcome Todd Marsh, CEO of Triple Crown Senior Living, to the show. Welcome to the show.
Thank you. Glad to be here.
Yes, glad you're here. So, this is going to be a fun conversation because, when we come to these conferences, we are afforded really a front row seat to talking about, some of the big leaders, some of the OGs that have been around the business for a long time. And Todd, you've been in the industry a while, but this is a new venture. Triple Crown is kind of the new kid on the block, and y'all have already made a lot of progress, learned some things along the way. And today I'd love to dive into the strategy. Give us some history around Triple Crown and what your goals are in 2026.
As you said, I've been in the industry for 29 years, but we formed Triple Crown Senior Living 2017. So it's been a journey since then. A lot of planning. We decided, how can we be the best operator in the areas that we serve? And, we do assisted living, memory care, independent living, and cottages. That's our focus. As a company, we grew pretty quick. We started with one building. We went to 10 in 18 months, and that was too fast. So we learned saying, hey, we took a year off to say, hey, how can we be the best company? What culture do we need to create? Who do we need to bring on board to support our buildings, to, serve our residents the best and be the best operator? So we took 2024 off to do that. We incorporated several things. We started with EOS management. That if you're all familiar with that was a big help. Deciding who's in what seat, who's doing what, accountability, and that helped. We did things like transforming the company with the Yardi platform, to get everything on the same page. So we did all that in 2024 and a lot. And then we hired Brian Culleton, the president, that does a great job. I mean, hiring good people that are smarter than me, it helps, the process. And so we did that in 2024 with the goal in 2025, 2026 to grow. We do 3 different things. We do new development, ground up, we do value add acquisitions, and we do third party management. So we set out in 25 to grow 7 or 8 communities. We did that. And we've doubled that expectation for 2026. So, but our focus continues to be, how do we best operate the buildings? There has to be some discipline. And then that it's fun to grow and it's exciting. But most important part is to operate the buildings successfully. So like we recently went to a new market. We went to Houston, Texas MSA, as you're aware. We have people live there, that operate. We're not operating those buildings from Louisville, Kentucky, where we're based. So when we go to a different area, we understand, Brian and I and our team, that people have to be there all the time. We're not flying in to help. There has to be support wherever we're operating. So we're excited about this year. We'll probably do, 3 to 5 new developments, and then, complement it with hopefully another 8 or 9, acquisitions. That's our plan, 2026.
Well, that's exciting and growing in really a lot of areas. So I'm curious, what does it take now what's different about the business from when you started in the business and you were doing new development, for example? What's the difference now to get a deal across the start line? And what are you seeing that have been some things that are success tips that you could tell our audience that maybe has been having challenges getting new developments done over the last couple of years? What's changed for you guys to enable you to do that?
It's a good question. And I'll bring up our partners in Triple Crown, senior living, are developers, multifamily developers. So we have got a great, partnership that they're used to from a multifamily standpoint, developing sites. They also have a construction company and really, I guess, getting it done, you learn a lot. We've learned a tremendous. I mean, I could say, we made mistakes in the beginning and we stopped making those mistakes. So, finding the right land, the land price, the amount of acreage that you need is important for whatever you're building. And even our models or what we do, new development has changed. We start, we do 131 units. We'll do 99 units. Now we're looking at a 157 unit model. So finding people that know what they're doing and help you along the way, makes it a little easier. I mean, we have, I'm going to give my partners credit again, is that, we're pretty lean, when it comes to a construction side, they know how to build we do all Class A properties. So we're building very nice amenity-driven, properties, but they're really good at locating the land at the right price, engineering the construction cost to make sense. So it models. I mean, it all starts with the model. We always numbers on the page is what we say. And, we have investors and they expect certain returns, and we've been successful thus far, meeting those returns, actually exceeding them. So we're excited.
Switching over to the operations. I love that you took a pause and you're like, we're going to stay committed to operating these really, really well. So now where do you find the biggest challenge as an operator when you have that hat on? Is it still labor and that's the number one thing, or is it marketing and census? Is it other issues? Is it technology? What is keeping you guys up at night, if that's a thing?
Well, I wouldn't characterize it as keeping me up at night, but all of those things you said are what we're monitoring and trying to improve on all the time. Quality people make a difference. Part of the EOS strategy is that, we call it GWCing. Do they get it? Do they want it? Do they have the capacity to do it? I mean, we really look at each person on our team and make sure they're in the right spot and they're doing the right things. Doesn't mean you're a bad person or not good, but you've got to fit, what our culture is. So assisted living in particular, and a lot of my experience in the past is in the skilled side, which we don't do at Triple Crown. But we have to focus on, everything you said. It's occupancy driven. You have to be in the sales side in assisted living. I say that's the biggest difference, that I've seen my career between skilled and assisted living. You have to be focused on it because it's what pays the bills. And the sales process, or, goes anything strategically from how much money you're spending, per lead, how much, how do you, capture that? I mean, the monitoring that is crucial to success. When you talked about labor, it was horrible during COVID, as we all know. I mean, that was probably the worst time in, at least my 29 years in doing that. But I think that you've gotten a lot better. We've been successful, finding the right people, but it's all of that. Unfortunately, it's everything. I mean, there's 5 or 6 things that we're looking at all the time and monitoring it.
What do you think is sort of some of the biggest changing dynamic you're seeing, or maybe you're not seeing a big change in dynamic of everybody's talking about the aging population? We're starting to see a different type of consumer that we're catering to, that we're serving, that we're building and renovating for. How's that impacting you guys? What are you seeing there? What's the opportunity?
As I get older, I'm getting closer to the actual age of people that we serve right now. It's amenity driven. That's when we build or we acquire buildings, we're looking at, okay, what do our customers or future customers want? And that's all high end amenities. We do anything from, I always say bars, chapels. We do a chapel. We put a chapel. If they on an acquisition, we'll put a chapel in there. We'll put a bar in there. We'll put a movie theater. We'll put, the amenities that everyone wants and expects moving forward, because as most of the properties that are across the country, are older properties. I mean, if you look at the whole, as a whole, and when I get to that age to decide that, I'm not going to stay in an older property, I'm just not, or not so much that it's older. It's, does it have the amenities that we need? So that's, a focus, that we have.
So that parlays to another question, is that y'all are trying to accomplish a lot between the ground up, acquisitions, third party. How do you as a company build a strategy around building these Class A buildings, but also acquiring value add where they're not Class A buildings at that point? Is your strategy to say always, listen, we really want consistency across our portfolio, whether it's a ground up development or a value add acquisition? We want it all to have our standard for amenities and our standards for the way that the building and physical plan operates.
Yeah, absolutely. We've established and we've improved upon, how we look at properties that we're purchasing and what we can put in them. And as I said, is like we kind of go through the amenities checklist. What does the building have? What does it need? I mean, we try not to do a whole lot of moving walls and changing things if we don't have to, but sometimes you have to. We add these, the rooms that I'm talking about, the amenities that our, residents or customers want. You change the, the floor plan to fit. So yeah, it's a process. We have a, a checklist, if you will, of okay, what does the building have? What does it need? Can we put it in there? How much does it cost? And, sometimes that takes, that part of the plan of the acquisition plan is to find the right spot, the right price, and aesthetically upgrade it and then operate it more efficiently. And we'd like to see those results in a year and a half, 2 years. And we've been fortunate to do that. But we go through a process of what do they have? What do they need? What can we do?
So you talked about the returns on to your investors. Y'all have able to meet and exceed those. How much do they also look at the data in the industry as far as the optimism and the data that speaks to the age and income qualified, and how much that is a big topic of conversation today? Are they looking at that as well?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, being in the business so long, I mean, you've been hearing about the wave coming. And I think we talked about this last year. I think there was so much optimism, I think at this meeting last year and then other meetings, Nick, that I've ever seen. It's like everyone's excited. It's like, I don't know why it's an aha moment, because it's been coming for many years, but the demand is, far exceeding the supply. And it's just math. I don't think that we're going to catch up for a while. So, from an investor standpoint, that makes it, you understand that the need's there, and it makes it a little easier to, tolerate the risk, of the investment, because that people need it. And that's what we're seeing. I mean, you'll see the occupancy, across the board is creeping up, I think. And that's demand driven. I'd like to think that, we do an great job. I mean, but the demand is demand, so, I think that from an investor standpoint is attractive. If you operate, the building successful, there's a good, margin, there. It's not too good. But it's there. If you're looking to have an investment, strategy, I mean, just like anyone else, you can put some money here, you put some money there. It's a definitely attractive, place to put some money, in the senior living space.
Yeah. Well, I want to go back to a comment you made earlier. You were mentioning after you guys started, you grew too fast. I think that resonates because, with all of the positivity around, everybody's talking about not only the demographic, but now the capital's opening up again, and deals are going to start being done. And we're already starting to see that happening. I think there's going to be a real potential for a lot of people to grow too fast. So for you, I mean, lessons learned, what does that mean when you grow too fast? But for you guys, what did that mean? Like, what did you learn through the process of growing?
First and foremost, you have to have a good operations team. You have to be able to handle whatever you're bringing on or whatever you're developing. And so how we approached it is we knew, and that we had a really small number of people that were supporting 10 buildings, and then we probably tripled that amount in that, in that time period in 2024, because you have to be disciplined and know, I would say that we're over-resourced on purpose because we're anticipating the next acquisition or where we're heading. But you do have to have discipline because it's exciting. There's a lot of, and especially in the last, 24 months, I mean, there's a lot out there. There are a lot of things come across our desk, opportunities, acquisitions, and you can't get caught up in the thrill of just growing and being big just for that purpose.
Just getting a deal done. Yeah.
Because in our business and it's important to do a good job. It's not just, it's not just okay to grow. It's you've got to make sure that you deliver a quality service, that the returns are where they need to be. And so that's kind of what we learned when I said we just, bam. But we had our partnership and I, we really did. We were like, hey, we're happy with what we're doing. We could have continued to grow, but we were like, we need to take time out, make sure that we're doing the best job, for our residents, for our employees, as a company. And thankfully we were successful. So that's how I would say, as a company, you have to be disciplined. We can't just chase all the time because it's exciting.
So final question, Todd, you've been in the industry a long time. You've seen a lot of professionals come and go. We have been talking about recently just a lot of new faces. And there's more attention on the senior housing marketplace. Even Josh has the opportunity to go speak at colleges. And, years past, he would speak about senior housing and no one would have any clue about it. And starting to see a little bit more of a trend. Bridge the Gap, the platform actually gets reached out to by different colleges and curriculums. So we're seeing that little bit of a trend. What would be your recommendation for maybe a young person starting out and potentially looking at senior housing as a career path?
Most schools now are coming up with programming that's focused, in that space. It's obviously, there. I mean, it's when you're a young person, like remember way back then, it's like, you're looking for a career, what's sustainable. And so what we just talked about makes senior living and anything associated with it very attractive from getting a degree or getting experience or doing an internship in this area. So I don't think I have the answer, the silver bullet answer, but I believe that because of what we talked about, interest is growing naturally, because it's you hear about it more, honestly, too. I mean, on the news or what's going on or with the new developments, I think that people are getting educated, what that means. And I think that creates, more excitement at the, a college level or career level to say, hey, this is a good career. And by the way, just looking at the buildings themselves, I mean, not just us. I mean, there's a lot of great operators and providers and developers. I mean, we're building beautiful resort type, buildings and that get people excited, and I think that in turn, helps with career paths and makes it more attractive, for a younger person.
Well, very good. Well, we appreciate you taking time here at the ASHA conference to come and sit down and tell your story and tell us about Triple Crown. And for those of y'all want to connect with Todd and Triple Crown, scroll down in those show notes and connect right there. Todd, thanks for your time today.
Thank you, guys. It's great.
And go to btgvoice.com, download this content and so much more. Thanks for listening to another great episode of Bridge the Gap.